Hello and welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Welcome, Doug. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your teaching and learning background. Can you tell me a little bit more?
I've had a lot of life learning out of school. I prefer to be more of a hands-on learner and a trainer. So in the food industry in Canada, I spent a lot of time in human resources training adults how to do their work and merchandise and marketing. Um, I have had some academic background, but later in life, that has helped me in teaching, of course, but I still rely on the basics of human psychology and learning in the classroom. I think that's more important than just lecturing or using academic environments.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of psychology and learning. Actually one of the modules I'm studying is second language acquisition theory, and so we're just touching on psycholinguistics and how psychology affects everything that we do, and of course how we learn, and in my case how we learn languages. So we're in China now. What brought you over here?
I had a company of my own for a short time and decided that that was not for me. I wanted to go back into training and teaching. The ESL environment was new, interesting, really growing rapidly in China, and I felt if at all possible, I'd try it out for a year or two. When I came here, I fell in love with the whole environment as well as teaching ESL, so I stayed. I've been here now 14 years.
Okay, and what is your specialism? What kind of aspects of teaching do you really enjoy?
For me, coaching is still important, and that comes from training adults. So whatever I do, regardless of whether it is in the corporate environment or in teaching youngsters, I use a coaching style.
Okay, can you elaborate a little bit more?
Based on the literature that I've read, coaching is a process of presenting, allowing experimentation, and follow-up. So within that can be almost anything, but of course presenting might be lecture style or photos or videos, etc. And then the coaching means working with students to help them discover and helping them work through issues, and at the same time helps me to learn about what they're struggling with and their perception of what's happening. Often it can be one-on-one or one-to-group, and then the follow-up is homework and working with them on an ongoing basis so that the lessons that were put into play are used and not just a lecture for one day and then we go on to lecture something else. So it's a progressive scaffolding type of structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. How is that received by your students?
Oh, they love it. For example, in the writing course that I've developed, it's often difficult for them to take a break. They just want to keep going. They're so involved and enthusiastic about what's happening. And that's pretty good considering the students in China who are reluctant to write and they have trouble with cognitive processes. So to have them that involved, where they ignore their cell phones and sending messages and don't want to take a break, I'm pretty impressed with that style.
So you're talking about technology in the classroom. What experience do you have with that, and how do you handle phones, people looking at their phones and being...
The technology in the classroom makes me cringe because, of course, it means that the students all have a cell phone beside them. They often don't have a pen and paper, but they'll have a cell phone. Primarily, they're using it as a dictionary. And the results are discouraging because they translate from their mother language and they usually get a noun. So even if they get somewhat of a reasonable translation, the vocabulary will be very formal, very high level. In writing it might work if they could use it, but they can't. For speaking, it's a disadvantage because we often use adjectives to describe things. And they're not able to do that. They want to plug in the noun that they found from their dictionary. Is that an inadequacy of the dictionary or of their ability to modify words, or both? I don't know. I've just discouraged the use of phones, tried to encourage the use of dictionary books, but they don't do it.
I mean, I guess I think of it as a strategy. perhaps the strategy that they use for looking for words isn't adequate. I'm not. I think at first I was discouraging of technology. I saw it as a distraction, but I think that if you can incorporate it some way, make it not seem as bad or negative, and actually make it seem quite normal, then I don't know. I think that there could be some good results, and I do let students look up words in the dictionary, although I do understand it's not as simple as just finding the word. It's finding the kind of right formation and putting it in the right place in the sentence.
Now, the other bit of technology in the classroom is specific to one test, which is the TOEFL test. Students must have a computer because they need keyboard skills. The TOEFL test is IBT. Therefore, they have to use that. And in fact, if we ask them to write, it might be a disadvantage because we're asking them to mix the two technologies together.
So yeah, so you were talking about the TOEFL test. Are you quite experienced in that?
Yeah, I've done some work with students, but unfortunately schools don't have the computer labs for them. So it's often instructing in writing and asking them to go home and do more practical work on the computer, on the keyboard, to practice their skills.
Okay. And you know quite a bit about academic writing. I think that's an area that a lot of students have trouble with. Do you have any tips? How do you break down and how do you teach academic writing?
Quite often students will look at writing as just memorizing and copying, and they see that as a full template approach to getting the job done quickly. We need to go back to the basics of writing, which are introduction, thesis, topic, sentence, paragraph support, making a point, and expressing opinion. All of those parts are essential. We need to allow them to expand and support as they wish and not be so rigid, true, but there needs to be those essential elements because that's part of our language. That's what we need. And exams test for that. The results, of course, they create coherence, they create logic, they create progression, but they have to be there in some form. So we need to go back, and many books will tell them, oh, and do that. You have to have a topic sentence. And a topic sentence should be something that introduces the paragraph. But they have no idea what that means. And their cognitive processes are not the same as us as teachers or instructors. So we need to go back and show them what a topic sentence looks like and how they actually write that and how it relates to the theses and how it relates to what comes after in the paragraph. They've never been taught that. And they're often quite surprised that there's more to it than that. Some think it's difficult and they would just rather memorize, but their scores are low and their writing is poor. Those that really see value in learning to write because their future is going to be writing in university, they'll be patient enough to go through the process, and we get some great results. But they need help. They need a lot of coaching in the classroom to know how to actually do it. We might think it's simple to just say, write a topic sentence, or even write a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
They don't find it easy. No one has ever showed them how. People have told them, books have shown them examples and told them that these are the elements. No one has sat down with them, helped them work through and discover what that might look like from their ideas and their perspective and their thinking process.
I see. So it's actually a lack of experience. It's that, as you were saying, they're given a model and a template. They can see what it is, but they haven't, let's say, lived through it. They haven't gone through the examples, so they don't know how to put it together themselves.
And they're not able to look at something and internalize it, pull it apart, and understand it. We are, because of our learning background and our age, our experience, so we can look at a thesis and see how it relates, where it came from, and see what the writer might be going to do. They have no ability to do that.
So do you think then that that's because there's less of a focus on the writing skill? If we think about the 4 skills, and I imagine we want to dedicate an equal amount of time to those, would you say then that here there's less focus on writing?
Yes, and the attitude of writing is, as I said, it's a template format or a memorizing format. Another very negative thing in the environment is that the teachers here don't know how to write. And I've had teachers give me their writing to evaluate, and I can see where the students pick up the negative habits, the bad language, the Chinglish, the mixture of English and Chinese, or the missing elements, because the teachers are doing the same thing. So it's a system problem. And I'm not sure that just a book will do it, but I think that it's a start. And if the book is outlined and gives them opportunities for examples and where they have to write and work through some of these things, those that have the desire and the motivation to do it will. And if teachers can get that type of instruction to help the students work through the process, that's a start.
Can you recommend any books to us?
Well, what a lead-in. Yeah, of course, I'm just in the process of looking for a publisher for mine. It will be called The Writer's Journal. And it is 400 pages of step-by-step process, students working through examples, non-examples, blank spaces for them to write, to experiment, and plenty of examples for them to compare, and simple discussion with them, even though I'm not there as a coach, but a coaching style discussion in the book that helps them discover what these elements are all about.
Okay, that sounds really exciting. I think it's something that even I could learn something from. I write a blog. Actually, this recording is going to be posted on there. And I do feel that I don't write well, that I don't have much structure. I kind of throw it all together. So I'm quite curious to have a look at your book.
It is targeted for all teachers, and I've said that in the front, in the introduction. There are many people who are foreigners, native speakers, who come here to teach. They don't have teaching experience. They lack the fundamentals of how to teach writing. They may know how to write themselves in perhaps basic ways, but they don't know how to take what they have done and teach it in a classroom, particularly to the students that we deal with here. So the book is really clear for them to take excerpts from, photocopy, and to present it to the students step by step. So it's a great resource tool and a teaching tool. It makes writing simpler and more fun. It's interesting. Of course, it is based on the IELTS testing system. So all of the materials in there are focused on what they have to do to perform better in the IELTS test. But someone writing an essay for TOEFL in the independent part of the TOEFL, or SAT, would still benefit from the Task 2 part.
Okay, so whether it's kind of general training or academic training, the book is of use to all students.
Yes, and I'm anticipating that if we market well, it will be well accepted in areas like larger cities, as well as people, younger students who are self-studying in small towns and villages. And that was the purpose as well. It's not just for qualified programs or students in the city. It's for everyone and any level. As long as they can understand basic English and work through some of the exercises, it helps them.
Well, I look forward to reading your book and working through it. Wish you all the best with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for speaking with me, Doug.
You're welcome.